My name is Silvia Imbesi. I'm part of Design for All. I come from the University of Ferrara. I'm a researcher and I am an expert in human-centered design and inclusive design. And today we are going to talk about urban design. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So the main contents of the lesson of today are inclusive urban design. Then I will talk about inclusive design applied to public spaces, a small focus on smart cities, and at the end we will talk about wayfinding. I would like to start reading you the definition of urban design. Urban design is the design of towns and cities, streets and spaces. It is the collaborative and multidisciplinary process of shaping the physical setting for life. Urban design involves the design of buildings, groups of buildings, spaces, and landscapes, and establishing frameworks and procedures that will deliver successful development for different people over time. So we can see that urban design is a complex subject that is multidisciplinary and involves many professionals in the design of settings of the city, starting from buildings and spaces to neighborhoods and cities. Nowadays, cities are composed by many different people that have different abilities, different backgrounds, and different walks of lives. And this kind of diversity should be intended not as a limitation, but as a source of strength and resilience for our urban life. Inclusion is intended as a fundamental principle of urban development because it fosters the concept that cities should be designed and managed to give the most possible equitable access, opportunities, and participation for all people involved in urban life, regardless of their abilities or disabilities. In the urban context, as we saw when we talked about interior design, while we shape cities, we should be care about making them welcoming, barrier-free, and accommodating for every person living in it. And urban life is not only about the shape of the city, but it's even about the services of the city, like transportations, like life in public spaces, housing, and most of all, the social services that are intended to help the populations. People with disabilities still find a lot of barriers in their usual daily urban environments, and this includes both physical obstacles, but even a lack of accessible transportation, social stigmatization, and limited opportunities. As we can see, inclusion and accessibility are not only referred to the physical dimension, but even to the emotional ones. The challenges of these people with disabilities are not individual. They need to be intended as a part of a more complex system, including an inadequate urban planning, outdated infrastructures, and discriminatory practices that are very diffused in nowadays cities. Obviously, policies and legislation have a huge and fundamental role in promoting the inclusive design and ensuring inclusion in cities. Accessibility laws and regulation, as well as inclusive urban planning policies, provide framework for progress. We have a lot of instruments, but they only usually give prescriptions without an adequate analysis of people they're intended for. We try to make rules, but we already know that there is no way that one size fits all. So nowadays, the current legislation is very limiting for inclusive design. I would like to propose now a focus of inclusive public spaces whose accessibility is the most important in the city. And it's since 1980 that the scientific community is studying the strict relationship that there is between the public space and the public and individual health. We know that public spaces can positively impact on well-being by enhancing people's perception of social connection, trust, welcomeness, and safety when they are in those spaces. So I want to repeat again that the inclusion is not only about the physical access to the different spaces of the city, but it's always related to the sense of home that people can feel in the public space. Ideally, public spaces should promote healthy behaviors to the inhabitants of the city. How this could happen? Surely by increasing physical activity level, improving neighborhood walkability, and increasing neighborhood destinations, encouraging social interactions. So we can see that healthy behaviors are not only about physical well-being, but they're even about improving the access to the different part of the city to make citizens more aware and suggesting them healthy behavior that can positively impact on their status. So the health status is not limited to physical health outcomes, but even to the mental ones. Oh, sorry. But even to the mental ones. So an inclusive public space should therefore have the ability to facilitate various healthy behaviors, leading to a range of positive health outcomes. For example, when a person has a full access to an inclusive public spaces, it's more easy to use it. And then you can even modify your behaviors and take it a better advantage to what the space is offering to you. When this happens, the user can adopt a healthier lifestyle, can become more active and interact more with other people living this environment. And this can result in positive physical and mental health outcomes and better sense of belonging and social well-being. In this picture, we can see a spatial playground for children in a wheelchair. So, for example, usually it's not very easy to go in parks with the wheelchair, but if we can allow those people to take advantage to this kind of places and systems, surely they will start engaging in new activities, things they didn't do before the space offered these possibilities. The public space is very complex because we intend the solution as multiple, site-specific, and interrelated. This results in a range of different factors that can shape and influence public space inclusivity. So it's not simple, and we can't elaborate solutions that can be applied everywhere. We need to study the specific site and understand which are the limitations in this kind of site. The most factors affecting inclusivity in relation to public spaces are under three main dimensions: the physical environment, the personal experience, and the process and context. We will see now one by one. Talking about the physical environment, the design of a public spaces can determine its level of inclusiveness through aspects of accessibility. These ones are related to the physical access, that is the most intuitive one. So the physical features of the environment should allow the use by all people of all ages and all abilities, for example, including ramps, crossing lights, openness, and lighting. This is about physical solutions to physical problems regarding the access. Then we have the social access, and it's about having a social or visual representation of the space that creates a sense of safety, comfort, and empowerment. For example, if a space is related to local art, cultural elements, and historical representation, we can improve the social engagement of people being in it. Then we have the access to activity. So the space is multifunctional and able to accommodate different activities. For example, we can offer the possibility to people of taking advantage of different activities all in the same place. For example, performances or social movements. The physical dimension is always related to other factors like the transportation connectivity, so the possibility for people to use the transportation, the neighborhood walkability, so the possibility for people to walk through the different spaces of the neighborhood, and then available amenities. So for example, if the environments comprehends public washrooms, water fountains, or a sufficient number of seatings. People-friendly urban design, so the shape of urban furniture and the level of surveillance of a space are also considered as a part of the physical environment. Then we have the personal experience that is really determining in how people can live in a space. It considers all the factors that are impacting on perception and on the sense of inclusion in a public space. For example, gender, age, sexuality, race, ethnicity, religion, and cultural background, socioeconomical status, and the personal values can strongly impact on how any person, any user can perceive the public space. And it also affects how people can interact with other people in the same place. Then we have the process and context. So, for example, the neighborhood context and background. So, which are the overall demographics of the neighborhood, the incoming distribution, household type. So, all that information that you can gain in the census data. Then it's even important to consider the history and development of the environment. So how was this space historically conceived, and for which activities this space was originally created. Then we should consider even the management and control of the context. So which authority is controlling this public space? Who is managing and maintaining the space? Are the planning, design, and implementation processes participatory? Is there ongoing involvement with local community members and through the space? So as you can see, the process and context issues are maybe the most complex and multidisciplinary ones. I'm presenting a case study of inclusion that considers the relationship between pedestrian and vehicles in the design of urban spaces. We always consider the relationship between people and vehicles, considering accident rates, observation of behaviors, and use of the space in different conditions, and interactions between different category of environment users. This approach is very quantitative and not much qualitative. So it's really similar to the process we use on vehicle engineering, but the things regarding users and people are always more complex than the one considering machines. So we should consider that our public space is born to host bodies, not machines. And even the act of people walking is really much more than moving from a place to another. It's a matter of daily life, of interests, and of activities that people want to do in their public spaces. Here we have an example. It's the story of the historic traffic planning of the city of Copenhagen in the past 2 centuries. So we can see that at the beginning, the design of streets was strictly related to the needs of humans, of people. And the design of streets for private vehicles was subordinated to the people one. For example, you can see this in 1920s. Then what happened? It happened that we conceived urban planning as an instrument to foster the importance of vehicles instead the one of human bodies. So, for example, today we can see that the car is the one with the most direct way to gain destination, while pedestrians and bicycles and public transports need to go through a lot of problems while using the city. And the Copenhagen traffic planning now is trying to invert this trend by facilitating public transports and walking people instead of private vehicles. Here we are in Italy, and there are some examples of how we like to sacrifice the pedestrian space to foster vehicular traffic. So this is why cars are preponderating in our cities, because it's very easy for cars to travel inside the city. We can't say the same for pedestrians. Routes for pedestrians are always more difficult, and most of the time they are interrupted and they present some problems, and it are not well promoted. At the beginning, the walking activity of pedestrians wasn't only a matter of going from one site to another one, but it was a way of shaping the space and giving messages about what people preferred. For example, in the first part, we can see in a park the user experience that says that the design paths probably are not the most useful ones for pedestrians, who created new paths in the park. Pedestrians so shape the environment by moving and giving different meanings currently with their daily tasks. In the second picture, we can see how we conceive the cities now. We are designing vehicle-centered cities, promoting the fluidification of vehicle traffic instead of human bodies' health and well-being. We are shaping cities for vehicles and not cities for human bodies. Here's an example of old projects that intended to be so visual, innovative, and instead they were not at all, because they were only focusing on how making the ways of cars easier, and people are not represented or represented as insects that can't impact on the city shape. So how can we promote pedestrians inclusion? We can invert this vehicle-centered paradigm, and nowadays we are talking very much about demotorization, but it can't be intended as a solution. It's only part of a problem-solving strategy that should be really more complex and concentrated. And conceiving the space as a collection of situation, opportunities, and interactions where groups of people with different needs coexist jointly and collaboratively. Infrastructures should determine the typology of social and physical interaction we want to promote. So infrastructures are not intended as something that is allowing people to have a urban life. They only should promote which kind of interaction people are doing in that places. Now we have a small focus on smart cities. Smart cities are places where traditional networks and services are made more efficient using digital solutions for its inhabitants and businesses. We are seeing that nowadays we are trying to incorporate in some innovative technologies in the management of cities, technologies such as artificial intelligence and Internet of Things. Smart cities use technologies to transform core system and optimize finite resources. It is a knowledge-based system that provides stakeholders with real-time insight and enables decision makers to manage the city subsystems. Smart cities can use data to try to determine some trends of people and the most common behaviors, just to allow stakeholders to have real-time information of what should be the best decision for the management of the city. Smart city solution to everyday problems can allow citizens to mostly interact with the city. To do that, there are some suggestions. For example, adapt information and digital services, making them suitable for different formats. We saw that different people have different kind of understanding information. So if we provide information in different channels or in different way, we can gain a huge number of people. We can adjust urban technologies and mobility solutions following different people's abilities. So we should consider the backgrounds and the physical abilities of citizens living in the cities. We can retrofit the traditional assistive technologies with new features. So it's not a matter of changing everything. It's a matter of enriching what we have with more assistive technologies. Then we should support the navigation and exploration of the urban landscape, and we now have many digital instruments that can allow it. Just think about Google Maps or other kind of web apps. Identify and describe objects and locations, so make citizens aware of what they can find in places and what urban objects are there for. Help people with disabilities in find urban facilities and appliances. So as before, it's very often only a matter of information to people that can be gained both with digital, but even with physical elements. We should anticipate unexpected events and or dangerous situations. Data can really help us in defining which should be the dangerous situations and to have a real-time idea of what's happening. Provide efficient communication channels to allow the interaction between people with disabilities and local authorities and public agents. Many times people with disabilities have problems in their communication, most of all in communicating which are their needs and their requirements about the public spaces. So this lack of communication traduces in a lack of solution that are centered to them. The requirements of a smart city that is inclusive and sustainable are the object interoperability. So the objects should collect data and elaborate them to make calculations about the people performances and the city performances. Then the real-time monitoring that is an essential feature to provide relevant information to predict events and to avoid a lot of problems. Sustainability. Architectures should include sustainable policies related to environmental, economic, and social aspects. So sustainability intended not as only refer to environment, but even to economic and social solutions. Then we should consider historical data. So all data picked up from the urban space has the potential to become relevant. Thus, architecture must include efficient storage and retrieval mechanism for such data. As we said before, we collect data, and if we have a correct way of storing them, reading them, and elaborating them, we can have access to a lot of important information that are determining how we can live in our urban environment. Then we have even mobility. Mobile technology captures information from or to the environment. We have privacy, that is very important issue, because privacy policies explaining what data will be captured and what will be done with it, preventing users and organizations from providing certain critical data. We have the service composition and integrated urban manager that says that services should be developed with the flexibility to be reused, grouped, and able to participate in composition with other services. Very often, services in city are intended as separated. They are single, and the users need to find many different channels to access to each one. But they should be integrated in a complex system that can offer more of them together. Then we have flexibility and extensibility. The diversity and the dynamics of cities should be expressed in smart city architectures. Changes, adaptation, and extensions should be foreseen in the architecture. So we usually intend flexibility as more connected to digital issues, because it's easier to modify the digital environment instead of the physical ones. But even architecture can have the possibility to adapt itself and to present different solutions to change it over time. Talking about design for inclusion, smart cities should stop considering accessibility as an add-on. because it's the basic starting point of the design of the city. Every issues of the city needs to include disability, and if it doesn't, we are missing out on a huge part of the population and market share, leaving millions of people out of the equations. There are so many people with different abilities, even if they are not disabled. So we can say that special needs are not only belonging to disabled people, but to every one of us that can have peculiar needs during different periods of the life. And this includes the need to acknowledge the diverse range of disabilities, including those that are hidden or cognitive. It means that most of the time we think about disability as only physical disability. When we think to a disabled person, we intend it as a person with wheelchair. So most of the solutions in the city are for people with moving impairments, especially on wheelchairs, but very often they don't consider other kind of hidden disabilities, or for example, the cognitive ones that are more difficult to be recognized and that present most complex solutions. So the smart city should incorporate groups that have been failed by traditional urban planning. The one of smart city is a way of planning that should allow us to consider even people that was not considered by the traditional urban planning field. Inclusive design is not just about designing for people with disabilities. It's about keeping the diversity and uniqueness of each individual in mind while designing all solutions. It's about knowing your users, understanding what their accessibility challenges are, and adjusting the design approach to ensure that every one of them can successfully engage with every service. Smart city are a quite novel concept, and citizen can be digitally disengaged. Innovative technologies such as the artificial intelligence and the Internet of Things can exclude some inhabitants by the benefits brought by the smart city. In particular, this happens with elderly people, disabled people, and people with low-income backgrounds. This digital exclusion is very dangerous because it's part of the hidden disabilities we were talking before. We can intend digitalization as a knowledge that not all people have and not all people can develop. So the smart cities should take in account even those people who do not have access to information and communication technology. Digital exclusion is perhaps the biggest barrier to inclusion in our smart cities. Boosting digital literacy and making technology more affordable for the masses are the first steps toward more complex, inclusive-oriented measures. So it would be really helpful that public institutions invest toward the digital literacy of population, just to allow them to take advantage of the huge number of possibilities that smart cities are going to offer. Now I would like you to talk about wayfinding because I intend it as a sort of communication channel in the city that is strictly related to inclusion. We said that accessibility empowers users with the ability to use a space, but this doesn't mean they are able to find the space. As inclusive design becomes more widely understood, the definition of successful wayfinding is beginning to change along with it. We can define inclusive wayfinding design as a design that should strengthen intuition to create an experience with the flexibility to accommodate a wide range of individual preferences and abilities, where everyone navigating the space feels immediately welcome and oriented without having to question what to do or where to go next. So accessibility doesn't ensure people to find spaces, and we should help them in orienting themselves in the environment. Wayfinding is an example of a powerful conflict of inclusive design, because the signage should be very clear and as little as possible to avoid confusion. But at the same time, signage should give all the necessary information to users that are completely new to a space and might not even speak the local language. So we need an economy on information to be more direct and clear, but at the same time, we need to provide all the information the user is needed in that moment. Wayfinding literally means finding the way and concerns all the artifacts we can use while searching for a destination. The purpose of wayfinding is to facilitate the mental representation of the environment. And wayfinding can be intended as a sort of interaction and predisposition rather than an order. It should be the answers to orientation questions of the users before they ask. For example, some typical orientation questions are: how can I get to my destination? How long does it take to my destination? Will there be someone to ask for information? Where will be the exit located? Will there be a bathroom? So a good wayfinding design should provide answers to these questions before the users make them. An important principle is that in the wayfinding, the aesthetic sphere is at the service of communicative efficiency. So it's not like what happens in fashion or in art. In wayfinding, the broadening of the user base of the message is really much important of the exclusivity of the message. We have here some examples. This is the Metropolitan of Naples. And this is made by an artist, a designer called Karim Rashid. And as we can see, it's more artistic than accessible. Can you imagine this central part reflecting all the indications and all the signals? It's really difficult to interpret this space. We have mirrors all around. I think it's not accessible at all. Here we have a stair. Can you imagine what about a visually impaired person trying to understand where to go? Even the stairs, this lighting can be very disturbing and annoying. A good wayfinding project should make the environment immediately interpretable. It should allow people to perceive as immediately familiar every environment, like a thoughtful but discreet guide who makes you feel comfortable, helping you to get to the destination. It not always happens. For example, we have here we are in Italy. We have a picture of signals that are very old and have been damaged, and they are really difficult to be written by users. Or we have here an example of too many information together. Can you imagine if I am driving my car and I'm passing near the signals? How can I read and interpret them? Should I stop at the center of the city with my car just to read the signals? There are some common issues related to wayfinding, and for example, one of them is people have never visited the site and have difficulty in understanding the information available. For example, this image is about signage in a Chinese hospital. So you understand that when signals are related to the language of the country we are, it's very difficult to interpret them. Another issue could be when people is supposed to memorize a path they taken in the past, but they don't remember which it was. Another issue is related to changes in the environment orientation system. For example, here we have different digital environments. We have the Windows one and the Apple one. And you know that is quite difficult to pass from one to another, and we can feel disoriented in doing it. Wayfinding is not only about physical places, but even about digital ones. There are some principles to design a valuable navigation experience, and these principles are logic, information strategy, special elements, preparation, overview, information hierarchies, step-by-step navigation. And we are going to see these principles one by one. Starting from logic, when you name areas and destinations, you should use a current system which is easy to decode for the user. And this creates predictability and makes it more intuitive to know where to search for the next destination. For example, if you are in a building with different sectors and you are in sector A, you will expect to find close to it the sector B. When I was at secondary school, classrooms have the names of famous authors. So you were in a building with 20 classrooms and you had to find the room, the nuncio. So you understand it was not easy and not intuitive at all. Then we have the information strategy. So informations of wayfinding should be presented in a hierarchical manner, displaying before the most relevant ones and prioritizing which information are relevant to all users and what is only used by some of them in relation to a specific location. By creating a clear hierarchy between different types of information, the amount of information presented at once is minimized, and is therefore easier to decode the relevant information. It's the principle we were describing before, talking about a contradiction of inclusive design. So we should present at first the most important information, and to do then it's very important to understand which are the most important ones for the biggest number of users. Then there are special elements that support the natural affordance of the space and create optimal user flows. These elements strengthen our ability to orientate ourselves because they can function as landmarks along the route, hence supporting our memory and cognitive mapping. When these are respectfully integrated into the architecture, we see synergetic effects rather than making wayfinding a visually detached extra layer. So special elements can really affect wayfinding. How we conceived a building, how we conceived an architecture can work with a synergetical effect with the wayfinding system, helping the orientation of the different kind of users. Preparation. Our ability to navigate is supported by preparing ourselves, requiring the ability to assess information about our upcoming journey. For example, when we are going in a new place, in a new destination, we usually like to consult, for example, Google Maps before, just to be sure to understand which are the main elements of the place and to know before being them how we should orienteer. Overview. A map of the space can enhance the orientation for new visitors by providing them with a quick overview of the route to their destination and the placement of different destinations about each other. Thus, the overview becomes part of our mental overview or cognitive map of the space. This will allow users to know by instinct what to look for as soon as they enter in the building. So maps can provide overviews, just as we were saying before, while we are preparing in visiting an environment, a map can give us a quick overview of the building and of the road to our destination. Information hierarchies. Wayfinding information must be presented hierarchically, presenting only the relevant information to each specific concept. We can do this prioritizing which are the information that we intend as relevant to all users and which one differently should be used only by some people in some specific location. When the hierarchy is set, you can differentiate between different types of information by adjusting, for example, color and font sizes. So we need to create priorities with the information we are going to give. There are some information that are relevant for all the users in that environment and some others that will be used only by some users to find only specific location. How can we give this kind of priority? For example, using colors and font sizes just to give a visual feedback of which are the most important information. Step-by-step navigation. There is often a large amount of end destination, for example, in hospitals and airports. Therefore, we should create a progressive disclosure to be used to reduce the amount of information at each decision point. This is done by breaking down the journey into a number of natural sub-destinations, instead of, for example, pointing towards each individual bed ward at the main entrance hall at the hospital. For example, we should divide the route to a specific part of the hospital in entrance, then building A, then main waiting area, etc., etc. I think that the most important elements of wayfinding are the special ones. So I would like to see with you some of the most diffuse solutions. The most common elements are signage and sign systems. Signage is an information system that indicates possible routes in a public space to help users to make decisions and to implement their plans. The ability to define the person's position and take a path depends both on experience and on the ability to recognize some notable signs in an unfamiliar environment. The signage are perhaps the most recognizable components of wayfinding. Signs, whether directional, informing, or identifying, guide us from one location to another, providing essential information or denoting particular areas and landmarks. Signage is essential for conveying rules, warnings, and safety procedures. For example, exit signs in a building guide occupants safely out during emergencies. Here we have some examples of wayfinding signs. One important rule is that we should recognize the different signs as belonging to the same family. So before noticing what the sign is saying to us, we should understand that is a part of a system, and we should understand which are the main physical characteristics of the system. These are signals about danger. There are these response to rules so that people can recognize this kind of signal in different environments and in different situations, just to advise them of some problems or something dangerous that could happen to them. Then another determining element in wayfinding are maps. Maps are used to offer an overview of the whole environment, helping users to understand which is their current location. A crucial element in this kind of maps is the indication called "you are here." This marker is very important to allow people to understand which is their current location, and basing on that to take an informed decision on which direction to go to gain the destination. With digital technologies, we have many innovation on maps because now we can take advantage of interactive maps that are a dynamic variant of the traditional ones. And the interactive maps can offer real-time updates, zooming capabilities, and even turn-by-turn direction. They can be customized to show specific routes based on user needs, highlighting amenities or point of interest along the way. Over time, regular visitors begin to recall certain pathways, landmarks, and point of interest, reducing the reliance on the wayfinding system. Here we have some examples. We are used to search the "you are here" mark just to orientate yourself to understand the overview of the building with ourselves inside or of the environment. This is an example of interactive map. So if we select a certain part of the map, we can access to other information regarding it that would have been difficult to be provided altogether. There's another example of interactive map where selecting the different destinations, we can be informed about other details of that kind of place. Then there are symbols and icons that we use very often because of their instant recognizability. In spaces frequented by diverse groups of people, including those from different linguistic backgrounds, symbols can provide a universal language. In high traffic areas or emergencies, time is essential. Symbols cut down the time it takes to process information. Instead of reading restroom or exit, a simple glance at the respective icons provide the needed information, making navigation quicker and more intuitive. When we are in a new place, when we don't know where to go, our cognitive abilities can be a little impaired. So in this situation, maybe where if we don't know the language, we don't have the information, symbols are a very quick strategy to understand directions without a too high cognitive engagement. Symbols are always conceived to be directed to a broader audience for individuals with reading difficulties, cognitive impairments, or for those who aren't familiar with the local language. For this kind of people, symbols offer a more accessible way to understand the surroundings. While the message behind the symbol needs to be universally understood, the design of the symbol can be adapted to fit the aesthetic of the space it's in. So we have some symbols like the one we saw before about dangers that are the same and are codified for every environment. But there are other ones that can be universally understood even if we change the graphics. For example, I'm sure that you are able to understand all of these symbols even if you never saw them before. And then again, these are symbols of bathrooms. And even here we can have a huge amount of variations, but you are still able to understand the meaning, even if you never saw before this kind of images. Then another very important element is color coding. Humans are inherently visual creators, and colors are more easily remembered than text or numbers. By associating a specific color with a zone or area, individuals are more likely to recall their path or destinations. Navigating complex environments can be mentally overwhelming. Color coding reduces the cognitive burden by providing clear visual cues. Instead of relying heavily on signs and written instructions, individuals can make quick decisions based on color patterns they recognize. So as symbols we saw before, colors can provide a very quick and low cognitive engagement information because our brain can elaborate quicker colors than writings or images. In color coding, we can't ignore the aesthetic appeal. Color coding can be harmoniously integrated into the overall design of the branding of a space. For those with language barriers, cognitive impairments, or specific visual conditions like color blindness, navigating spaces can be challenging. By using distinct contrasting colors and considering universal design principles, wayfinding systems can cater to a broader audience, ensuring inclusivity. Here we have some examples. Usually we use color to distinguish different areas or distinguish different plans or different functions in the same building. And it's easier for us to remember the association with colors than the other ones. Other two examples, nowadays are very used signals on pavements. Here on the left, we have an example showing the function and then leading the person to the right space by following the color of the function. Even lighting can be intended as a wayfinding element because it's not just about providing visibility of the environment, but it blends aesthetically with functionality to guide and engage users within a space. Proper lighting can be of immense help to individuals with visual impairments. By ensuring clear contrast and reducing glare, spaces become more navigable for everyone. Furthermore, certain lighting cues can be implemented to assist those with cognitive challenges offering them a more comfortable and comprehensible environment. So we can intend light just not to give visibility to the place, but to highlight and to distinguish different parts of the environment. Here we have an example. On the left, there are some signals. So we can use light to highlight the position of signals and to tell the users the different functions of the building. On the right, we have another examples of stairs. Light here is used to define what the stairs is, but it's more useful to help people that could have visual impairments in a black environment, just to understand where are the steps and not to put them in a dangerous situation. Then we have tactile elements and audio systems. Wayfinding is about ensuring that every individual, regardless of their abilities, can navigate and comprehend the surroundings effectively. To that end, tactile elements and audio systems have emerged as crucial tool to aid in accessibility, especially for those with visual impairments. Some spaces, especially cultural institutions or large public buildings, might offer tactile models of maps. These are the three-dimensional representations of a space that user can touch to feel to understand layouts, giving them a bird-eye tactile perspective. As we said before, most of the time accessibility is considered as related to movement impairments, just like the ones of people on wheelchair. But we say that there are other kind of impairments, for example, the visual ones that can be not overcome but helped by tactile elements that when touched can give to the user an overview of the whole environment. These kind of elements are used in, for example, in trains or train stations, together with other kind of information maybe given by the audio systems, for example. When if we are in a train station and there is a change in the schedule or there are some safety instructions, the auditory cues keep users informed and can be especially valuable for those who can't access to visual information. In certain interactive environments, users must receive audio feedback based on their interaction. For example, when accessing information kiosk, button or options could have associated sounds, confirming selection to the user. So as we said before, giving tactile elements to help visually impaired people, we can even give audio cues just to give information in a quicker way and without oblige the person who reads something and to gain information from the visual channel. Here we have some examples of tactile maps that can be very useful for the orientation of blind people. And we even have a signal with the number and his translation in Braille language. We need to remember a very important issue, that is that when we design for visually impaired people, we need to consider how these people can gain these tactile elements without seeing them. Here we have another example of a kiosk providing information even through the its audio system. So you select a certain information, and then you have a double explanation, a visual one, and even an auditory one. Then there are landmarks. that are like silent guides that gently steer visitors through various environments. Landmarks can instill a unique character to the area. They contribute to the identity of a space, making it memorable and distinct from other places. This sense of place aids is not just navigation, but also in fostering a connection between the user and the environment. Here we have an example. In most of environments that are there are some characteristic elements that give an identity to this place, and that we can recognize even at distance. For example, when we are in Paris, we can see the Tour Eiffel even from a distance, and maybe we can orienteer ourselves in the city center only by seeing where is this landmark. We have even digital interfaces and interactive system. So the fusion of digital interfaces and interactive systems with the traditional wayfinding methodologies has revolutionized how we navigate spaces, and the presence of digital aids has reshaped our spatial experience. As smartphones become ubiquitous, wayfinding apps have gained prominence. They offer personalized navigation assistance, allowing users to explore spaces at their own pace. Advanced features might include augmented reality, where digital markers or direction overlay real-world views through the phone's camera. Here we have some examples of what I was saying before. Now with digitalization, we have the opportunity with the smartphone to implement reality with digital elements. For example, in this space, thanks to a QR code, we can access to a huge amount of information about what we are seeing. Here's another example using augmented reality. So we, through our smartphone camera, we can see other elements that are not real or only digital, but can guide us through our journey to our destination. So we can conclude saying that wayfinding is a layered strategy that goes beyond the mere repetition, and it addresses the varied manners in which individuals observe and make sense of spaces. While some of us lean on the visual cues, like symbols and color patterns, others might depend more on textual and tactile hints. Through integrating these varied facets, wayfinding methodologies appeal to broad spectrum, ensuring every individual, irrespective of their navigation style, feels included.